1320 WILS and your morning wake-up here. Remember in the wake of Las Vegas, there was, some called it stunning, others said, no, it wasn't anything of the sort. When the National Rifle Association, they announced their support of further regulation that would be done on those so-called bump stocks. The mechanism here that Stephen Paddock used, according to law enforcement, to turn what was a normal semi-automatic weapon into something that at least resembled in its action, and the keyword there is action, a fully automatic one, and he killed a lot of people in a horrible mass shooting. So there was kind of some consensus on that, but maybe not. Lawmakers now in Illinois, they voted down a ban on these modifications known as bump stocks. It was a close vote, but they voted it down. So what does that do, and what message does that send into Congress? Let's talk about it with Emily Taylor, gun law analyst with U.S. and Texas Law Shield, on the other end of our line. Emily, good morning.
Good morning.
There seemed like there was some consensus on that, and the NRA did kind of, that changed some of the chessboard, or did it? What was your take on that?
Well, I think that there was a general consensus about bump stocks, but the problem with the Illinois bill, and it's the same problem that we're looking at with the bill that's proposed in the Federal House of Representatives, is that it reaches far past bump stocks and, in fact, would criminalize any device that could essentially make your trigger pull on your rifle faster.
Well, so can you be more specific about that? Faster like a bump stock? Because we all heard the audio. It was extremely fast. I mean, that was...
Right. I would love to be more specific. The problem is that the lawmakers have declined to be more specific than that. They've drafted this bill that's incredibly vague. And again, the one in Illinois is a virtual mirror image of what's pending in the House of Representatives right now. And the bill says that there is any device that would have the effect of increasing the rate of fire on that rifle would become illegal under this new legislation were it to pass. And that's how, I think that your question has hit the nail on the head. What does that even mean? And it has the potential to criminalize lots and lots of different items far beyond bump stocks.
Well, couldn't they have started with bump stocks? And then if you think that didn't go far enough and something else that can be specified, you would specify that and either amend and add to it or come up with something new. But wouldn't they start with it? In other words, you're telling me the way it's written, it's like bump stocks and then anything else under the sun, and they're not specific. So that makes it problematic.
It does. Potentially the way the bill is worded would criminalize something that's very common, which is trigger modification. Lots and lots of shooters, it's a very innocuous, commonplace modification to put a nicer trigger on your rifle. And I think potentially that's a criminal act under this new bill.
Using the mindset of if you have a nicer trigger, you might have an easier pull. If you have an easier pull, you might squeeze off more rounds in a more rapid fashion. Therefore, it's no longer the same semi-automatic. I guess you could make that case, but it seems somewhat disingenuous, doesn't it?
No, absolutely not. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I know without a doubt that when the government wants to make something a criminal act, they will stretch the law as written in order to do that. And the way this bill is written, they can stretch so many things into criminality. If they can, they will.
Yeah, I didn't frame that very well. I meant disingenuous to say anything that would increase your trigger pull would take it automatically into the fully automatic. I didn't say that right there, but that's okay because we're not off the same page on that. So that's on me. That's on my head, and that's okay. People are listening to the show are used to that on a regular basis. So we circle back around and we correct it, and we move on. So what do you do next? Do you actively oppose this on the congressional side? Where does the NRA? Are they going to then get beefed up and muscle up on this, or what? What happens next?
I sure hope that the NRA will oppose it. And I think the fact that Illinois voted down this bill is hopefully a good sign for what's pending on the federal level, because it really is, I think, problematic not only in its vague nature, but also because what it's doing is it's criminalizing something that was legal to buy when you bought it, and the government is not compensating you for this loss at all. They're just seeking to take away property. And this bill isn't phrased like the assault weapons ban of the 90s was, where we said, well, everything is grandfathered in except going forward. You can't transfer or buy or sell. But this bill actually says that everything, as of 180 days after the effective date of the bill, is, nuclear to possess. And I've never seen that before, and it's quite disturbing.
If it was modified to bump stocks only, you'd be okay with it?
Well, I would still take issue with the fact that I think the government would be dispossessing people of property, and I think creating an ex post facto law by virtue of the fact they're saying that something that was legal when you bought it is now illegal. If they drafted something that said only bump stocks and then said, and we're only talking about the transfer, everything that's currently in circulation and that you currently own and possess is legal, I would have a hard time taking issue with that bill.
That's a lot. That's a lot, though. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
There's a lot out. That's a big step to take, A, on the bill side, and 2, there are a lot of bump stocks that are out there, which you can't do a darn thing about right now. I'm not seeing, this giant, hey, this weekend, it's bump stock turning weekend here in the capital city of Michigan. I'm not seeing people driving up and just throwing them into a giant bin to start the bonfire. I'm not getting that. But by the same token, I'm not sure that is something that will make a big difference out there, if you get my drift. Do you know where I'm going with that? I mean, it's just not, if there's a lot of them out there right now, you create a secondary level market for those that are grandfathered in, and you do. And people who have weapons will find a way to exchange those, will they not?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the other issue that you've brought up here is that there really probably aren't that many people out there using bump stocks on a regular basis. The bump stock isn't truly the problem here. It has virtually no practical function. People probably buy them, they sit in the gun collection and don't do much with them. And the reason for that is they make your shooting really inaccurate and they don't have a solid practicality for most shooters.
Yeah, but with enough volume, you can, as with anything, you can make up for inaccuracy. And that's not to say, look, there's not that many bump stocks, but there are enough. And it's not to say, hey, Thompson submachine guns, you want to go shoot a Thompson, you can at a range in Las Vegas away from the Strip and do so legally and have a great time for, 5 minutes or ever long to, run through that sucker. And you'll pay for the privilege and you'll do it safely. But it's just the one instance where it's not done safely that creates a problem for everybody else. And that's what happened in Las Vegas. Emily Taylor, where do we follow you online? You go on Twitter, I'm guessing?
Well, I'll direct you to www.uslawshield.com. U.S. Law Shield is a wonderful Second Amendment advocacy organization. Sure. They provide legal services for gun owners. I'm one of their independent program attorneys.
All right, Emily, appreciate you being on. I think there's room. There's always room for reasonable people who favor the Second Amendment and those who want more security out there from gun violence to find a way to discuss. It doesn't always happen, but I think there's room for it, and hopefully we move the ball down the field a little bit today. Thanks, Emily.